Hey guys, Tyler here with my first collection spotlight of 2014. The topic this week is the 5 most meaningful films in your collection. I have a lot of meaningful films in my collection, so it was really hard to narrow it down to 5, but I think I did a pretty good job, so yeah, let's get to it. Right, number 5 for me, you might call this cheating, but hear me out, I actually have a good reason for including all 3 of these films, is the Toy Story trilogy. Now, I was pretty much the perfect age for this trilogy. I was 4 years old when Toy Story came out, I was 9 years old when Toy Story 2 came out, and I was 19 when Toy Story 3 came out. So I was almost the exact ages of Andy throughout the 3 movies. The great thing about the Toy Story trilogy is that you think that it's about a group of toys and their relationship with their owner and their relationship with each other, and the movies are about that. But at the same time, once you get to the end of the 3rd movie, it hits you that you're not just watching the toys, you're watching Andy grow up. That really hit me hard as I was sitting in the theater watching Toy Story 3 back in 2010. I realized this is a story of kids, this is a story of me, of how I grow up and how I progress as I get older. So yeah, this trilogy really hit me hard. By the end of the 3rd movie, I was really emotional, and I know that I'm not the only person my age who had that experience with these films. My mom has seen all 3 movies, and she doesn't get it. So it's kind of like a generational thing. I just happen to be that exact right age to get the full impact of this trilogy. Number 4 for me is Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life. As most of you guys know, I'm a huge Terrence Malick fan, and The Tree of Life is my favorite film of his because it has so much to say about so many different things. It's simultaneously a story about a Texas family in the 1950s. It's a coming-of-age film. It's a film that deals with the relationships between brothers and siblings in general, and it's a story about growing up. At the same time, it relates that small niche to a bigger picture with the sequences of the universe and of space and the cosmos that lost a lot of viewers. I really love the philosophical depth of The Tree of Life, and just like the end of Toy Story 3, the ending of The Tree of Life really hits me hard. It's just such an emotional, surreal, immersive experience, and you think about your life, you think about death, you think about your family, you think about everything while you're watching this film, and that's what makes Terrence Malick such a master at what he does. He can elicit such emotion even if you don't necessarily know where it's coming from, because his films don't have the traditional kind of structure. So yeah, Tree of Life is a very emotional experience for me. Number 3 is To Kill a Mockingbird. I saw this film for the first time when I was 11 or 12. We saw it in middle school, and it was the first film that gave me an emotional connection, that made me realize the power of film as a medium as far as intellectual and emotional stimulation. I had been a fan of films all my life, obviously, from Fantasia when I was 5 years old all the way up to School of Rock around this time, but To Kill a Mockingbird was the first film that made me step back and think about what was actually being portrayed on the screen. And Jim Finch was the first character that I can ever remember relating to in a film. I looked at some of the things that he did, some of the things that he said, and I thought, I can see myself in this character. To me, this was a huge step towards making me the film watcher and appreciator that I am today. So To Kill a Mockingbird is a really, really important film to me, besides the fact that it's a great film, besides the fact that Gregory Peck gives a masterful performance. It's also the first film that got me into film. So there is that. Number 2 is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. This is the most recent film on my list, but it doesn't make it any less impactful to me. I was a fan of the novel of The Perks of Being a Wallflower before I saw the film. And when I saw this film, when it first came out here in Columbus, I was in a kind of a rough patch, and I went and saw this film, and it made me so emotional that I almost couldn't see the entire film because I was crying through the whole thing. It's a very, very powerful film for anybody who's ever gone through any of the issues that Charlie goes through. I don't want to get too much into it, number 1, because it's personal, number 2, because I don't want to lessen the impact of the film for people who don't know, who want to see it for the first time. but it really helped me work through some of the issues, really brought things to a head, and allowed me to overcome some of the things I was going through at that time in a relatively non-self-destructive way. So The Perks of Being a Wallflower, very, very important to my life. It very well could have kept me from doing something that I would have regretted. And the number one most meaningful film for me should come as no surprise to most of you who know me. It's Stand By Me. Besides the fact that I am a huge River Phoenix fan, this film, it changed my life, literally changed my life. I was 13 or 14 the first time I saw it, and I was, you know, a typical angsty kid. I had not the greatest relationship with my dad and whatnot. Seeing this film allowed me to realize that my father is not me, and my life is not connected to how my father sees my life. I can be my own independent person and not even worry about what he has to say, especially now as an adult, being by myself, living in my own apartment, doing whatever I want to do. I don't have to worry about the things that my dad says or does or thinks. So this was a very liberating film experience for me. It was also very emotional. I think I cried more during this film than any film I've ever seen before in my life. Especially, you know, towards the end with the revelation with Gordy. Again, I don't want to give away too much for anybody who has happened to not seen this film, which I can't imagine there'd be somebody who hasn't seen Stand By Me. But to say that this film influenced me and changed me would be an understatement. It allowed me to get past some of the things that I was hung up on as a teenager and realize that I'm better than my past. My past does not define me. My family does not define me. I define me. So for that reason, Stand By Me is my most meaningful film, and I think it'll always be my most meaningful film. Alright, so that's it. Those are my 5 most meaningful films in my collection. Honorable mentions that are films that I wish I could have included but didn't have time for would be films like Mud, The Thin Red Line, every other Pixar movie that I didn't talk about here, Stranger Than Fiction, Inception, The Dark Knight Rises. There are a lot of films that, even if they're not my favorite films anymore, they mean a lot to me for a very specific reason. I wish that I could have included them all, but I don't want this film to be, or this video to be 20 minutes long. So yeah, I had to stick with 5. So that's it. That's my collection spotlight, and I will see you guys later. Peace.